Welcome to the show. I'm Jamie Eisenberg. That's Heath Cummings. That's our buddy Pete Prisco joining us as well. And we have fortunate news to start the show with here in regards to Lions running back DeAndre Swift. According to the NFL Network, he suffered a shoulder injury in the Week 3 loss against the Minnesota Vikings and, quote, may miss some time. We don't know the extent of the injury, how much time he's going to miss, but just a bad situation for a guy who we had high expectations for this season. Certainly has gotten off to a good start through the first 2 weeks of the year, but we do know there is a direct replacement for him in Jamaal Williams. So, Pete, I'll start with you. You know, watching DeAndre Swift, watching Jamaal Williams, just watching this Lions offense and how they've run the ball, knowing that Jamaal Williams is going to step up and get that opportunity to be the lead guy, just how good can he be for the time being as long as Swift is out?
Well, I think he's going to be an effective replacement, but the problem is now you need another one to step up. So that's always the issue when you start dropping down at the running back position. But he showed on Sunday that he can go in there and do the job. And for guys who have him in fantasy, including myself, he was on my bench on Sunday. But he's a guy now you might have to elevate to being one of your starting running backs because he's going to get a lot of the carries. And this offense, by the way, has been really, really good up until the fourth quarter. They hadn't been stopped basically the entire season. So I think he'll be okay, but you know, depth-wise, that really hurts them in terms of after him.
20 carries, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns in the loss against the Vikings. Also 2 catches for 20 yards on 2 targets for Williams. The next guy would probably be Craig Reynolds, Heath, and I don't know just how much work they'll give him, if they'll give him the Jamaal Williams work or they'll give him the DeAndre Swift work, or they might just, you know, see what happens here. But in terms of Williams, they have a very good matchup this week against Seattle. We might have a preview of the start of the week, by the way. But in any event, Jamaal Williams is looking at what his opportunity is now. Must-start running back until further notice?
Must-start running back, probably a top 15 running back in the rankings this week. They are in such a great spot. The offense looks good. It's so rare. The Lions have an implied point total of 28 this week. Like, they will be one of the top 4 or 5 offenses in projected. For as long as Swift is out, Williams is a must-start. I think Craig Reynolds is probably an add in deeper leagues, but in a 12-team league, I probably won't bother with it.
We see this all the time, and again, we don't know the extent of the injury, but if it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you start making some buy low offers on DeAndre Swift from what could be the stretch one, because we saw last year when he came back from the shoulder injury, he was still pretty good. He had a shoulder injury last season.
It would have to be low, though, because what happened was the first couple of weeks of the season, he was so wildly efficient that people were talking about him like a top 5 running back. He was doing it on 10 carries a game and 4 or 5 targets a game. I don't think he's going to be a top 5 running back. So if you could buy him as a number 2 running back and then maybe get a number 1 for the second half, but I don't think the current perception is going to allow you to do that.
All right, so there's the latest on DeAndre Swift. Hopefully we'll get some news throughout the course of the show. Obviously, stay right here to CBS Sports HQ. You'll see the update on CBSSports.com and your fantasy leagues as well. Let's talk about some other notable headlines that we're looking at here coming off of Week 3, some other injuries clearly of prominence. Mac Jones reportedly suffered a high ankle sprain. Bill Belichick not giving an answer on that as of Monday morning, but we'll find out, I'm sure, throughout the course of the day, throughout the course of the week. Most likely we'll see Brian Hoyer starting for the Patriots in Week 4 against the Packers. David Montgomery considered day-to-day after leaving the game in the win against the Texans. Dalvin Cook suffered a dislocated shoulder, but is expected to play in Week 4 against the Saints in London, and the Saints dealing with some injuries of their own. Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry reportedly not serious injuries, but they also may have a quarterback controversy coming up if Jameis Winston continues to struggle. Dennis Allen sticking with Winston for now. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, let's talk about the Bears running back situation. Pete, Khalil Herbert was awesome stepping in for David Montgomery. The Bears saying that it's just a day-to-day situation for Montgomery at this point. When you look at the Bears and how they've run the ball the last 2 weeks, and the loss against the Packers in Week 2 and then the victory against the Texans, is this just going to be an opportunity for Khalil Herbert to be a must-start guy, very similar to Jamaal Williams?
Well, yeah, if he's in and starting, he has to be a must-start guy. And, you know, you talk about their offense and how limited they are in the passing game, which makes it even that much more impressive that they are able to run the football. And the offensive line has played well. And just glancing at the game yesterday, I haven't watched their tape yet, but they've been impressive. And they're young up front in terms of what they do for the run blocking. But Herbert's another one of those guys that just shows you can find running backs. The guy's averaging 7.3 per rush. Think about that, 7.3 per rush. Running backs are everywhere, and he's proof of that. Just another one in the long line of it.
Khalil Herbert, 56% rostered, a little bit easier to find him in some leagues as opposed to Jamaal Williams. He'll probably be the most added player again, assuming Montgomery does miss the Week 4 game against the Giants. Giants are going to be playing on a short week. We know they're most likely down Leonard Williams. We don't know the inactives yet for tonight, but Williams dealing with a sprained MCL, their key run stuffer there in the middle of that defense. Khalil Herbert, Jamaal Williams, who do you like better if you have the opportunity to get both?
I will, specifically for this week, I will like Jamal Williams better. I think the matchup's better, but both of them would be top 20 running backs and very close to must-start options.
Yeah, Herbert's going to be, again, an opportunity just to build off what he just showed you, which was pretty fantastic against the Texans. But again, it was the Texans, but the Giants' run defense may prove to be a similar opponent depending on what happens in the game tonight against the Cowboys. Let's talk about Dalvin Cook and the situation that's going on there in Minnesota. Pete, we got a little tip from somebody yesterday saying that this is going to be something that Dalvin Cook's going to have to probably deal with for maybe the rest of his career until he decides to have surgery, knowing that this is something that's been reoccurring for him. But he suffered a dislocated shoulder, had a great game before leaving with the shoulder against the Lions there. We've seen this time and time again. Alexander Mattison just steps up and plays typically like Dalvin Cook, just not to the same maybe ceilings, but the production could be the similar ceiling as well. Just talk about this Vikings run game and just if Mattison has to play for Dalvin Cook or even Cook just playing at less than 100%. What's your expectations in the game, knowing it's a third? They have to travel to London and it could be a little bit of a question.
Yeah, and look, Dalvin Cook, this is going to be, and we've heard that yesterday, it's going to be a problem for him until he gets it fixed. And until he gets it fixed, there are going to be times where he has an issue with his shoulder and he goes to the sideline. And he also fumbled on the play, by the way, which is not a good look either. So when Mattison goes in there, I don't think they miss a lot. They miss the home run threat. That's what they miss. He doesn't have the ability to go 70 yards like Dalvin Cook does, but he runs tough. He runs hard. He's a physical runner. He might even be a little bit more physical than Dalvin Cook. So I don't necessarily think there's that much of a drop-off if he does play an entire game and Cook doesn't play, but there's some, because Cook does give you the home run threat where Mattison doesn't quite give you that.
All right, Heath, I'll ask you the same question. Rank the three guys now. So you got Mattison, you got Jamal Williams, you got Khalil Herbert. Herbert gets the Giants, Mattison gets the Saints, and Williams gets the Seahawks. If all three are available, 10-team league, maybe an 8-team league, it's probably very rare that all three be available in a 12-team league. Rank them for me for this
Yeah,
week.
if all these guys were missing a long period of time, it'd be Mattison at the top for
just
sure.
for this week.
Just for this week, I think Madison's third. That matchup against the Saints is more difficult than the other two matchups, and so I would probably go Williams, then Herbert, then Mattison. Again, all inside my top 20 running backs.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, please pick up Alexander Mattison. I had to drop him in a 10-team league because of some quarterback issues, because quarterbacks stink right now. But I'm really going to make it a point to make sure I get Alexander Mattison back. Might have to overspend to get him, but he's the type of guy you want to keep on your roster just for this scenario. We've seen it time and time again with Dalvin Cook. 3 times last year he missed games. 3 times Alexander Mattison was an absolute superstar, so you know what you're getting if Dalvin Cook is out, again, playing the Saints in London on Sunday. Joe Mixon has a Thursday game. Now, he left with a reported ankle injury. Now, he did come back into the game to take some of the kneel downs there, so who knows the extent and how serious it is. We haven't heard anything yet from Zach Taylor, the Bengals coach. But, Pete, from what you've seen from Mixon, knowing that this offense kind of turned the corner a little bit, granted it was the Jets, and they have a much tougher opponent on Thursday against the Dolphins. If we don't see Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, maybe Chris Evans, can they pick up some of the slack in the run game?
Yeah, but I think when you look at the way Miami has played pass defense the last couple weeks and struggled with it, I think you're going to see Joe Burrow in the pass attack, open things up even more so. And, there was issues with the protection at times again on Sunday for Joe Burrow. But you can see Miami has issues covering the pass. Josh Allen did whatever he wanted to, and the week before Lamar Jackson hit him with some throws down the field. So I do think that this hurts them in terms of what they want to do. But Perine can step in and give you the carries that you need to get. But I think this is going to be a passing game for Joe Burrow, more so even if Mixon's in the game.
Well, Pete, that could lead to Perine playing more even if Mixon's healthy, because they tend to lean on him in the passing game. But from what you saw, Heath, in the game against the Jets, 9 carries, 47 yards for Perine, and we saw it, at times in spurts, not necessarily when Mixon was missing last year, but them just leaning on him. Is he going to be a high priority for you going into Tuesday night waivers, Wednesday night waivers, knowing that, again, the threshold that we typically look at, 65% of leagues are higher, Perine's at 13%, so right. He's going to be the most widely available of the guys we talked about, Mattison, Williams, and Khalil.
Yeah, and I think it's a pretty easy distinction. In leagues where Mattison or Williams or Herbert are available, then Perine's probably not that big of a priority. In leagues where all those guys are rostered, deeper leagues, then he's absolutely a priority and somebody we should stash. It sounds like Mixon's probably going to be okay for this week, and I would not like Perine as much as the other guys if Mixon was out. But he is somebody who should be on the bench as a potential handcuff.
Yep, and we've talked about this a lot. Sometimes with these great offenses, and the Bengals at one point will be a great offense. They may have gotten there on Sunday against the Jets when Joe Burrow threw for 3 touchdowns. They're building towards something. The offensive line trying to come together, but Perine could be one of the next Next man up, that could be a must-start player for you just in case Mixon does miss any time. Saints dealing with some issues. They have Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry both leaving the game on Sunday against the Panthers with injuries. Thomas with a toe problem, Landry with an ankle problem, according to reports not considered serious. Pete, just talk about where you're at with the Saints offense, knowing that there's also a situation where Jameis Winston might get benched. We talked about this on Sunday, that Andy Dalton might be the guy that they need to sort of settle things down, especially with Jameis dealing with the back injury. Dennis Allen not going to make the move right now. But factoring in Chris Olave, just what you've seen from the Saints passing game so far through 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I would make the move, to be honest with you. And particularly if they really struggle this week, I would definitely make the move. I think Jameis Winston's hurt more than he's leading on. And it's showing up in the way he's throwing the football. But he's such a competitor. He wants to be out there. This is his opportunity. He don't want to give it up. So I understand that. But he's not playing very well. And, you know, he hit a couple shots again when they fell behind. He hit some to Olave, who's going to be a really good receiver. We've seen that already so far this season. But, again, at some point, they have to make that change. Even if it's just for a few games to give Jameis Winston some time to let that back heal up, because he's just not the same quarterback throwing the football. I know he makes a ton of mistakes at times in his career, but this is more than that. This is missing guys. This is overshooting guys. The mechanics don't look right. So why not sit him down a couple games and say, hey, look, Andy Dalton's going to go in, we'll sit you down, and then when you're ready to go in 100%, then you go back in no matter what happens. They could do that. Or Andy Dalton could go in and play very well, and then maybe Jameis Winston doesn't get his job back.
And you never know where Taysom Hill factors into all this also. He's coming off a game where he didn't play, dealing with an injury. 2 questions. One, Thomas plays, must start, no hesitation if he's back out there against the Vikings this week?
Yeah, I mean, if he's a game-time decision, then maybe there's a little bit of hesitation, but probably yes.
Well, we'll know because it's the
Right.
London game, so we'll know 9 a.m. Is Chris Olave now a must-start wide receiver for fantasy? 9 catches, 147 yards, 13 targets, back-to-back weeks of 13 targets.
He's absolutely a must-start wide receiver if either Michael Thomas or Jarvis Landry is out. If all 3 of them are playing, then I think you would view him as more of a high-end number 3 for at least 1 more week until we see the target share there with both of them healthy.
All right, so we'll see what happens. Again, Chris Olave's off to a fantastic start. These rookie wide receivers are coming along much faster than we anticipated.